Hi, welcome everybody. Seems to be a little bit of a technical issue with the link there, so hope everyone's coming over now. So my name is Paul Quinton. I'm a teacher, healer, channel and mentor, and soon to be a published author. Hopefully this year I will have my book out. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, how my works come together, and really what, as a channel, I'm here to sort of bring spirit's information through into a world full of misinformation and chaos at the moment. And the teachings and what I'm going to speak about, a lot of it's come from, obviously, directly from spirit, me sort of growing up in this field, which I'll discuss in a minute, and also from my own experiences working with sort of the unseen world. So I sort of grew up in a family full of psychics and healers. So for me, growing up as a kid, I was very much involved in sort of very esoteric information. We used to go to the Spiritist church quite a lot when I was younger to sort of get messages, and we sort of in that sort of frequency of information, we're talking to sort of astral plane energies at that time, because we did a lot of rescue work. So we'd have sort of group sittings or seances during the week, where we would assist souls that have passed over. Some were in trauma, some have had sort of accidents, been murdered, etc., etc. So there was always a frequency of healing and being able to acknowledge the spirit that go over. And anyone that goes to the Spiritist church it's not like a normal church. It's more of a psychic connection and communication network. So a lot of people will go there to talk to loved ones that have passed over, and obviously that gives a great relief, because then there's a communication or a medium, and this can obviously help to heal a lot of our issues, because a lot of things get unsaid when people pass over. And there's a big market for that, but also now that's evolving as well. What actually spirit wants us to do is not so much be attached to the living or the people that have died and passed over. They want us to be more attached to the unseen in our soul body, the collective consciousness. So every soul on the planet now is being invited on an unconscious level through the soul body to reconnect, to come out of illusion, to come out of fear, and to come out of this sort of 3D reality. Because actually we do not need to keep suffering any longer, and we certainly do not need to keep playing in illusion. And obviously fear, like all emotions, have their own consciousness. And as a healer, even when I'm working individually, I will talk to certain emotions in the person and have a conversation like I'm having a conversation with a friend over a coffee. So it's very interesting, because everything is conscious. That's why people can talk to plants, talk to animals, etc., etc. So fear, and I'll be talking about fear as well, is the main energy that is trying to release itself off the planet more than anything else at the moment. And obviously there's love and fear, the two main, obviously, energies of the same energy, of the same spectrum at different ends. And they're trying to find balance with each other now. So the teaching that I talk about is very much going into transforming the emotional body. Then this will affect the mental body. And of course, once it's cleared and there's a healthy foundation and misinformation has been removed, what actually happens is the soul can then come into the body and start projecting itself out of the solar plexus, because the solar plexus, or chakra, or like we like to call them in the new in our new movement of work, is diamond lights, because diamond lights are honored by human beings. They're powerful, they're strong, and they can hold a lot of light and reflect light. So we give the chakras the name diamond lights now. One of my colleagues works with this work, and as I explain the alignment modality, I'll explain about how that will come together. So once the soul moves through the solar plexus, what it does is it brings out a force field of energy. And the contract that we sign, so before we incarnate each time, we have a soul contract, and this is created for the best growth, and it depends what the soul wants to do. And And also, a lot of people get misinformed about, so much past lives or more sort of multi-dimensional lives. So it's all happening at once. There's only the present moment. However, when one of its extensions, which is a physical being, human being, the soul's extensions passes over, then when it reincarnates that extension or that physical entity of itself, because we are many threads of many consciousness, it will take off exactly where it finished in the last life. So you can never really escape anything. And it's just a continual story. However, each story manifests differently, or each belief system will manifest in a different scenario, because you're going to be in a different timeline and a different civilization probably. So the story or the belief systems, the unrepressed trauma that's denied and repressed, will manifest into a different story in the new life. But it's still the same thread of consciousness, still the same thing that hasn't been acknowledged. Now, what a spirit is saying to us is that human beings are now sort of going backwards because we're evolving too much in the outside world with technology and everything. We're getting so hyped up, but we're not holding on to that spiritual, or shall we say, soul integrity. So what's happening is we're going too much into the mental field, left brain. And now what spirit are trying to say is that the power lies within surrender, which is within the feminine energy. And that we are moving back into collective consciousness. Now, collective consciousness is about letting go of the identity, which is the ego consciousness. Because for us to move back into the galactic family, we have to have multidimensional awareness and awareness of the unseen, and of course, other lives and other planets. Our galaxy is a thriving business. It's a thriving barter system, an exchange of information, growth, and all kinds of things. The cosmic joke is, what are they doing again on Earth now? They keep denying reality, and it's just, we're the only planet in our sort of solar system that doesn't have a day-to-day galactic connection. Well, obviously our governments do, but not day-to-day with human beings. And I'll talk a bit about why that is, because some of the work that I'm doing in this modality, the alignment modality, actually starts to remove a lot of these ancient programs and control mechanisms that have been placed in our system, which some people call implants, some people call frequency control. And so basically, Spirit are asking us now, we're ready now to release that. And what's happened in the New Age movement is there's still a lot of misinformation, unfortunately, in the New Age movement, and it's causing people a lot of disturbances unconsciously, because it's still feeding into misinformation that's been fed in by other sources. I'm not going to go into all that now because that could take hours to speak about. But what I will say is that what we're trying to do is simplify the message, because the last thing human beings need is another full set of rules and procedures, because everyone's already exhausted. They're tired, they're worn out. Unfortunately, the shadow self on the planet has been stimulating the base chakra for thousands and thousands of years, which keeps us in war, which keeps us in survival, and it keeps us fear around money. And this is what's been going on for a long, long time, and obviously our health. And we had Brexit in UK. That was to stimulate the base chakra, keep everyone in servitude, survival. And then, of course, finishes on a Tuesday, and of course, COVID starts on the Wednesday. And there's all these different sort of forms, and these are just the recent ones. But what Spirit trying to say is that you have to come out of this duality of thinking of light and dark, good and bad. You have to start to understand that the polarity is the same energy, and that everything that's going on in your life on a micro level, in your personal life, is a reflection of your belief systems and unresolved, repressed emotional trauma, ancient trauma. And so when we can start to understand that everything is created through the mirror of our own unique divine self, then it takes all the judgment out of life. It takes all the judgment out of someone that you would say is being negative towards you, because actually they're your greatest teacher. They're mirroring back what you have not resolved in yourself. So if you keep getting betrayed with money or in relationships, for example, this is going to mirror back into your soul, because your soul is the one that's creating that experience, so you can transform it. But what happens is we go in and we judge the person, then we shut down. If it's a relationship, we'll say, well, I'm never going to open again to certain people, and we start to close down because we're not informed that we are actually creating a betrayal, and the perpetrator is just there as a gift to show us, so we can feel it, so we can experience it. Because you can only transform something if you're aware of it. It has to be acknowledged first. So Priscilla, thanks. You've got a question there. How do we detach from fear? Well, that's a great question, isn't it? Well, I'll tell you the way I do it and the way I've been taught. Well, firstly, anyone that comes on my modality I teach, I give them as a meditation that has been created. And it's got a theta tone in it to open up the subconscious mind. So I start with that, because basically what that does is it starts to process the fear while you're sleeping. And it's working because your dreams start to change. So you could have nightmares, or they could get a little bit darker. And that's what's happening, is the subconscious is processing it. So what's happening then is you wake up in the morning, less and less fear each time. The other thing to do, and in the moment, is to acknowledge fear as a sort of, you've got to see the gift in it, because fear has been our greatest teacher, and it's guarded us in illusion. Because if we were to see the truth right now, most people would jump out of their bodies, or they would just die, because it was too much shock. So fear and illusion is there to keep us within the third dimensional experience, which is being cut off from the reality, really, where it's individual identity, where the ego has been reigning supreme up until now. So fear really will be acknowledged as a gift, and as I'm saying this, it's very hard because people get in fear. It's so overwhelming. But obviously, when I sort of teach it, it becomes understandable, and also when we get to feel it in a sort of shall we say, healing space, it doesn't become debilitating. And also share the ancient numerology, which is actually a healing modality in itself. And it shows you through the numbers why you're creating things, why you have fear. Now, 9 times out of 10, as soon as someone acknowledges it, logically understands it through the numbers, through their patterns, and through some of the techniques that we use, it starts to fall away very, very quickly. Because when you understand the truth, you don't need to fall into fear. Fear becomes then a choice. It's the belief in fear is the problem, that we should fear fear itself. So getting rid of fear is done through obviously through the meditation. But when it comes up, you have to breathe through it. Now, many ancient sort of modalities that have been lost on the planet were very simple. And it was just understanding what energy was and how to hold energy. And also, if you understand the mirror, then that fear becomes easy to overcome, because it's acknowledged with love. Now, we are taught to fear itself, like I said. So it's a belief system. So what we also do on alignment dance is we start to clear those belief systems. However, we don't do it through the traditional way of releasing belief systems. We do it through feeling it, because often, and actually we don't work with belief systems anymore, because what happens is when that belief system was created, whether it's this life or another life, you have emotional energy around that situation. Now, if the emotional energy is still there, the belief system, yes, you can release it on a superficial level, but the energy will still come back. So then that fear or whatever, that belief system could come back months, years later, depending on the soul. But you have to clear the emotional energy that was created around the belief system at the time. So we really go back into the ancient roots of everything. Now, when we work, because of the frequency we're bringing through, it actually opens up the person's soul body very, very quickly. So fear can come up very quickly, but it can also release itself. So it's a hard question, how to release fear. You really have to be, you have to be taught the technique. You have to have the information around why it's there, because the information gives the left brain peace, gives the ego peace, because they go, oh, okay, that's why, yeah, okay, boom, 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 boom. Because most of the time when people get into fear, and of course our society says push it down, face your fears, but you just squash your fear, and this is very, very dangerous, and our whole societal programming is very, very dangerous, and this is why Spirit is saying we're now going backwards, and why so much disease and illness is still manifesting on the planet. So to align with yourself, you must give space, and through space everything starts to move through you. So even when we're doing healing now, and a healer and a true healer is not someone that can heal you. They hold the space and they give psychic acknowledgement, intuition. They bring energies forward, but in truth, divine current, your soul body is who does the healing, because your soul is your own thread of consciousness and it's attached to a high dimensional frequency. So it can bring through exactly what you need, and no one can take away your pain. Only you can do that, but you have to acknowledge it in the moment. So it's about holding space for the person. And of course, that's a lot more empowering, because we also want to teach in Spirit very, very clearly. We need to give people tools to heal themselves. We can't be dependent and idolize these leaders anymore. This is not the way it works. And it's not about group consciousness. And when they talk about collective, they're talking about the soul body. And the soul body is a multi-dimensional, shall we say, form of energy. So we'll have our highest consciousness, which will be the spirit. Now, this will be created by the male and female, divine feminine, divine masculine. That spirit is created as what they call new souls. And of course, that spirit will then create souls to go out and experience the multiverse. And then the soul will then start to create physical extensions of itself. Hence us here on Earth and other planets, physicality. So we are many, many threads of consciousness. Now, I also want to say that a guide is your own consciousness. And we are often attached to something bigger and better or more powerful than ourselves. But that's, again, an illusion. That's, again, misinformation in the New Age movement. So what will happen, you are existing on every density. Now, there's 13 densities. The 13th density is the womb, is the unmanifest, it's the black ray, it's the feminine. And then that gives birth to everything. So divine masculine, or what we call God on here, sits on the 12th ray, or the 12th density. So we are experiencing ourselves on all of those levels, obviously up to 12. And what will happen is for example, a 9th or 10th density aspect of your own consciousness will come to assist other aspects of its consciousness that need assisting. So when you talk to a guide, you're actually talking to yourself, but from a different perspective. Okay, so you are many aspects of your own self. Now, just that alone is more empowering than believing we need all these other, that it's an outside entity that's assisting us. That's fantastic. And yes, we do have that. And these other beings do come in. But ultimately, the guides is your own thread of consciousness, because you're the only one that can really guide yourself the best. And of course, this is when it's felt and when it's understood. And when you feel, oh, I'm talking to myself, that takes a lot of the inadequacy. It takes a lot of the fear. And it takes a lot of, I can't achieve, I'm no good. Because if you know you're talking to your own self in an intuitive, psychic way, and you're getting information and it's like, wow, that's really going to help my life. Oh, but that's actually me that's telling me. Then, of course, that starts to override a lot of it, because the religious program that we've had for thousands and thousands of years have told us that we are less than, that we're in sin, that we're no good, that we have to idolize a figurehead. And of course, this has been our greatest fall in our society, because we have believed that we cannot achieve, that we need to be saved. So again, this is what Spirit are really trying to say, is that just teach people that they have all the power within them. And of course, then that will start to bring forward all that they need. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to share my screen. And I've just got a little few PowerPoints here. Okay. Right. So this is, have you suffered enough? Now, when people hit rock bottom, they find an energy in themselves. And I'm starting to see that a lot with people now, because everyone is exhausted. And when you can actually put your hand up and say, enough's enough, I'm done, I can't go any further, that's when energy starts to shift very, very quickly. Because what you also need to understand is, as I said at the beginning, every soul on the planet, or every human extension, is being asked by their souls to start to shift their awareness of their reality, to start transforming that which they have held on for sometimes thousands of lives, hundreds of lives. So have you suffered enough? And people, sometimes that question will say, well, I've been suffering all my life. And what happens is people feel it becomes the norm. They just say, well, that's just life. That's just the fun of life, the part of life. And then they talk about, well, it's just karma. Obviously I've done something bad in a past life. Now, karma is actually magnetic. And I'll be talking about that on the next slide. Well, it's here, electric and magnetic. So karma really is your soul creating an experience to wake you up to something that you have not resolved in yourself. So when things keep happening and you're not listening, you're just going, well, that just always happens. That just always happens. That's just me. That's just how I'm born. No, that type of talk is actually what's really, really dangerous, because you have to be aware that we are in physicality, but it's not a reality. And also that if you take the karma out of things, of good and bad, light and dark, expectation, then you are living a vertical lifestyle. Now, vertical versus horizontal. Now, we say horizontal versus living in the moment. This is the electric and magnetic. Now, if you are vertical, you are allowing divine current, which is electric, to come in to a heavy magnetic body, because 3D is magnetic. It's mirror universe, likes attract likes. You draw everything to you that you believe or create. Now, when we are heavily emotionally clogged up, shall we say, that magnetic body or that emotional body becomes very heavy, very dense. And of course, the electrical current cannot move through it. And this is why human beings cannot receive spirit. That's why we're so shut off, because of the heavy magnetics, and why we keep repeating the same old patterns, the same old suffering. So the horizontal line is the timeline that society have structured. So you have this, you put all this expectation down. When those expectations are not met, you retreat, you get angry, you get more fear. This leads to sickness, disease, to early death. So, we are, so basically the old model was, you go to school, you have to make a decision by 17 what you want to do. Then you go in, and then you're sort of forced into, not so forced in, but, the programming of, I need to get married. Women then start worrying about, I need to have a baby now, etc., etc. Then I have to plan all this stuff for my future. I've got to put on my mortgage, etc., etc., etc. Now, yes, obviously, in a 3D world, that is the picture that is shown, and we have to do some of those things. But what we have to do is do it within the moment, when the soul wants to do it. So if you're living on that vertical lifestyle, like horizontal timeline, which is linear, you are plugged into believing time is linear. This is actually what kills us. Okay. So if we are vertical and just living in the moment, vertical means we are always receiving electrical current. Electrical current is the soul body, is the spirit body. Now that is going to give you the most abundant life possible. It's going to give you a life of true transformation. And it's going to show you everything is possible in surrender. Now, surrender is being able to receive in the moment, and this is the power of the feminine. Now, the church shut down the feminine because they knew about its power. That's why they put everything as 12. But there's actually 13 full moons. There's actually 13 densities. And of course, the 13th number they say was unlucky. 13 is feminine. And they also say black is the devil, but the black is the feminine as well. So again, all this programming that's taught us to go into fear, keep us in that basal base chakra, in survival mode. And we actually do a lot of work around the base chakra in the alignment modality module 1. That comes through some of the activations as well that we do. And I'll speak a little bit about that at the end. So we are getting people to live a vertical lifestyle, which is being in the moment. But to become vertical, you must clear the horizontal magnetics, which is clearing the emotional body. Now, when we do not clear the emotional body, what happens sometimes in some people, it gets pushed into the mental body. And this is why we have a rise in mental illness right now, because the emotional body has not been acknowledged. Now, some people have very strong mental energy, so they will then magnetize their dysfunction into the mental field, and again, hence bipolar and all the mental illnesses and depression, etc., etc. So what's happening now on the planet is we are getting caught in this old structure of everything's around the logical mind. Everything, all our study or our pursuits all comes from that logical left brain, most of it. So of course, that's why mental illness is talked about, but they don't talk about emotional illness, where emotional illness is the foundation of all our problems. Now, there's nothing wrong with the physical body. It's the belief systems and the emotional body that lets it down. So if your physical body is in trauma or dysfunction, it's because you have a mental or emotional issue that is unresolved. That's it, plain and simple. That's what Spirit said very, very clearly. I trust that, I feel that, and I know that. So I will say that to you as well. Now, these where it says self-betrayal is the foundation leading to abuse, abandonment, and denial, and also actually separation. These are the issues that we hold that are still playing out in human consciousness. Now, this is the lower 4 chakras or diamond lights, starting with the Earth Star. And we actually work with 9 chakras, not 7 like the traditional. So we work with the Soul Star above the head and the Earth Star below the feet. Now, the Earth Star holds a separation. So this is where spiritual shock magnetizes, where the auric field anchors. And this is where we hold a lot of our Earth's history and trauma. So that gets affected, and it will affect our physical life in this life if it's unresolved. And of course, then we have base chakra, which is abuse. Now, this is the abuse of, and actually the love of the tribe. So this is all our past life memories of abuse and denial of our emotional body. And if this sort of base chakra is not clear, it doesn't allow divine current to move into the Earth Star, because everything has to, like lightning, has to ground. And what happens is that energy then gets pushed back up into the heart. And this is why a lot of people have heart problems. It's actually because of the base chakra. And then we have abandonment. Now, this is where all the religious programs sits, and this is the sacral chakra, the belly area. So this is where we believe we've been sent to Earth as a punishment by God. Again, this is the religious programming. It's all they're trying to release itself. And then we have denial. Now, denial, it sits in the solar plexus chakra. Now, this is where the soul comes through. So it's denial of the soul body, denial that we are more than a physical body. And this is, in some ways, is created inadequacy in a lot of people. And it actually, self-betrayal is what keeps inadequacy polarized in the human being. And it can sort of create a feeling of being less than, unable to achieve, and it can also create narcissism in others. And actually, inadequacy with no resistance creates the victim archetype. So once we transform denial, the soul body can come through, and then, of course, that energy can then transform into humility. Now, spirit can work through easily a human being when humility is the foundation in a human being's energy field. And when I say spirit, I'm talking about your own divine consciousness, your soul, because there's no resistance in humility. It can move with ease and grace. And consciousness is very subtle, because it has to be subtle to move through a very clogged third dimensional reality, because this place is very, very heavy at the moment. And of course, what we're going through now is a release of chaos. And it's this really great foundation that we're going through now, because what's happening is it's stirring up all the ancient trauma, all the ancient despair in human beings. So it's really a great chance to heal yourselves. And I'm sure many people have through lockdown. They've done quite a bit of work on that. So I'm just going to move on to the next one. Okay. So why are we here on Earth? Soul contract. We are here to transform the ancestral energy, our emotional blockages, to then open up to multi-dimensional engagement. So a big part of the work that we do is, of course, healing the ancestral, and we do it through all timelines. And of course, the emotional energy has to clear. But then, of course, there's a lot of subjects around the ancestral and emotional energy. But this is the main directive at the soul level for this planet, and also for most of these planets that are still locked in the illusion. But we have to clear the timelines, because if we're still attached to the old energies, we can't move into the new Earth, which is the golden age, which was what we're moving into now. And that should be kicking off around 2023. So how is the soul body, emotional body that usually hold the trauma and dysfunction? So that's why we do a lot of work, especially in the foundational module 1 of alignment modality. We're getting to start clearing all of those energies. Okay. So this is one of my sayings: a person who uses imagination becomes a beacon for all those people enslaved in conscious reality. So Einstein went on about this, and they said he was going mad in the last 10 years of his life. He said, basically, I would never have gotten to any of my conclusions without imagination. So he's basically said, logical thinking takes you from A to Z, but imagination takes you everywhere. It embraces the world, stimulates progress, stimulates evolution. So when we use imagination, it's the most powerful tool we have. Now, when the unseen world, when we pass over, you imagine something, you create it. You imagine to be somewhere, you're just there. So it's the same here. Now, if you don't have any doubt or fear when you put an image into your mind, into action, if there's no fear or doubt, it has to manifest under universal law. This is universal law because you have created through imagination. So when we start to imagine things changing, when we put up a hand and say, why am I like this? And we get inquisitive. Now, Einstein talked about inquisitiveness as well. He said, I would never have known why that star shined if I wasn't inquisitive about it, because inquisitiveness stimulates higher dimensional consciousness to come into the human self and bring evolution to the planet. So everyone has this same gift. So if you can start imagining things in your life changing and happening, you'll start to see it very, very quickly. But obviously, you have to clear the emotional body as well, because otherwise you can start sabotaging yourself. So the meridians are a consciousness that I work with. And I realized that we've lost a bit of time, so I'm going to just go through this because I've got a couple of channeled messages I also want to read from the meridians. So there's sort of this. If you have a read of that, and I'll just talk about this a little bit. These are 10th density consciousness beings. They've been very instrumental in Earth since day one. This is the consciousness that I channel. This is the main consciousness that I channel. This is the male, or they come through with more of the mental male energy, and also sort of channel another set of beings called the Algorians, and that's the divine feminine energy, or more feminine energy. And these two are the consciousness that I mainly work with. But the Viridian frequency, because its rage is actually from Mars. So we have the frequency of Mars in our brain, which leads to sort of more separation and loneliness. And when you go into the human emotional body, at the foundation is this deep separation and loneliness that most people have. So what they're doing is they're starting to change the atom and molecule base so that we can start holding more light. So they're doing a lot of work around the cells, but we have to clear these frequency control mechanisms that have been placed around us, because the reptilian brain especially is quite debilitating to human consciousness. It really keeps us, like I said, in servitude. And this what they're doing is also allowing the meridian system, which is the foundation of our being. So when we incarnate, the soul will have a blueprint and it will lay down a meridian system. And then all of our, what we call past life or multidimensional traumas will get wired into that meridian system. Then, of course, the heart manifests physically first, and then the hypothalamus. Now, the hypothalamus is the one that controls the body. It holds all of the past life trauma, and then that will wire into all the organs, muscles, and cells of the body. And set up that life, and then of course that energy that's stored there will then project out as part of that mirror universe I spoke about, and start creating your mirrors, your lessons and stuff, so you can transform them. So what they're doing is they're working at the foundational aspect of the human body to clear the miasms that are sitting there. Okay, and also what's now happening is we have multi-dimensional aspects of our unconsciousness trying to merge with our physical bodies now, and this is why you have birth defects with a lot of children. And what's happening is the human body is rejecting this DNA because it sees it as foreign, because we have these control mechanisms that stops multi-dimensional reality coming in, so everything gets pushed away. It's like a defense mechanism. There's a lot on this subject, but I don't want to go into all now because we're running out of time. But obviously, when you come on, if you come onto the alignment modality, we'll be discussing all this and explaining it all and going through everything. So like I said, that's part of their work, and we're also working with the genetics. So the genetics, obviously, the foundation of our being, and what's happening is the divine algorithm is starting now to its source, or so we say, creator has put out a call for us to return home, is for us to come back into collective consciousness. What happens if our soul body is shut down, which it is, and the heart then stays closed? The genetics become stuck, unused, unable to function. And that is why people are still walking around in survival mode, because if you have misinformation in your cells, what happens is light cannot ground into the cell. So you cannot receive stellar consciousness. Okay, so you have to have oscillation. You have to have energy swinging in the cells, just like the wave back and forth from the shore. So then what happens is that creates a sort of a spiral or vortex that draws in light. Okay, and when that happens, then you are creating, as they say, heaven on earth. You start to bring light consciousness, and this is actually how we heal the planet and heal each other. So if you do this work on yourselves, you will affect everyone around you, your family, your friends, your work colleagues. You walk down the street, you're going to affect everyone. And if those people that you're walking past want what you've got, their soul or their energy will start to open up, and you will feed them on a cellular level. And this is the intention of divine will, is to bring through the genetic or divine algorithm, which is the original 1 and 0 manifesting. Okay, so this is what's happening now. Is the zeros, the unmanifest, and the masculine energy is there to surrender to the will of divine feminine. So it's to bring through divine consciousness back onto the planet. But we have to be able to receive that. And this is why they've given us the alignment modalities, to start preparing people to hold this galactic energy that's coming in. And then, of course, the alignment modality, which I'll speak about just at the end. I know I've only got 10 minutes left. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read off a couple of channel messages. These are recent ones, and I just thought I'd read a couple because they're very good. And this is what I share on my group, on my Facebook group, Soultegrity. So a lot of people were talking about the Christ consciousness recently, so I thought I'd do a channeling on it just to get clarity. So Christ consciousness, it is a formation of collective consciousness that is an expression of the feminine healing energy from the great mother force. It is expressed through many non-physical beings. It is a nurturing energy that supports and uplifts the receiver. It is there to assist a being who has lost touch with their innocence, who has lost trust in their divine self. It creates a sacred bubble around the auric field, enabling a being's consciousness to relax by then invoking inner self-communication. It is actually the great mother invoking the womb around a being so they feel safe, supported. They can then relax and access their actions and the right steps forward. In some cases, a rebirth, a chance to break the old cycles of old. much like a physical womb, feeling safe and nurtured before the physical journey ahead. Many beings support this thread of consciousness and not only give love through this thread, but is also a conduit for communication. To integrate this communication, a being needs to be relaxed and willing to surrender their control, to trust with no agenda. Christ energy is only received in a receptive state of non-attachment. If you are in fear and asking to be saved, you are coming with the wrong intention. If you trust and surrender, you will receive all that you need, without expectation or condition. This is primarily a feminine energy at this time in your consciousness. Let go of Jesus as a figurehead behind this energy. The Christ is the sun in your biblical terms, and the sun is always birthed from the feminine. So you need to flip this around. Because Jesus is programmed in your consciousness as a savior, as a God to be worshipped. And this analogy is actually what keeps you from accessing your own God self. If you allow others to save you without acknowledging your despair, you will continue to create more and more despair. So in truth, no one can save you but yourself. In surrender, you not only save yourself, but you enhance human consciousness by emanating the truth of your existence. You feed the despair in the human collective with love. You strengthen human collective consciousness by lighting the way for those that dwell in the shadow. So let go of wanting to be saved. The only savior is inward. And I'll just read off the old one more quickly, because I know we've got a few more minutes. This is the old earth mentality. So we are seeing around the globe many beings holding on to an age that has now become redundant. And what humans are now just discovering is the amount of energy they waste by being caught up in the height of an illusionary world. The male energy over the next 6 months is on a path of surrender. And through next year, this surrender will integrate with human evolution. Now, the male energy in whatever form needs love and it needs support. It takes a brave soul to surrender to the feminine. And the more you can encourage men in your life or your male side to soften their approach, to take a step back where less is more, you will find a deep gratitude preceding this acknowledgement. Why? Because the male consciousness, as we know, is exhausted, but more importantly, wants balance and integration. And the feminine willpower is very strong, but very gentle, and can weave that energy in a way that supports instead of attack. It can be a delicate matter, but what is important is your intention to assist the male of your own male energy, that it comes from the heart and not your judgment of the male behavior, and certainly for not your own benefit, i.e. getting your own way or a way to control. Because the ego has been playing this game for too long now, and it's time to be authentic in all your communication with each other. In actual fact, men are waiting to be approached in this matter. They want emotional understanding, emotional resonance with their intellect. And you will find a scared little boy in most cases. And if it's the male side dominant in a female, then it's most likely coming from survival or inadequacy. The feminine energy needs to be expressed with love and tenderness, because within this tenderness is where the power resides. The energy is already powerful, so it doesn't need to be expressed with power or force. And the only way to express this powerful force is through tenderness, subtle and even childlike. So look around in your life, use your intuition, and the right men will reveal themselves that are ready. And if it's your male side dominant, then you need to soften your approach and give permission to the divine feminine to work through you and balance the two energies. And if you're listening to this, you are more than ready. Okay, there was a few more there to read off, but I'll do those next time. Okay, so I've got a few more minutes. So the alignment modality, now just come on my website. I've got all the videos and explanation there. So basically there's 4 parts, there's 3 modules, and then there's practitioner level. If you come on a group or a workshop, you would have had some connection with everyone on that workshop, because what's happening is those souls are collecting together through the workshops, and you are also transforming ancient trauma as a group, which is very interesting, very powerful, and it's been great to experience. So the first part is basically teaching you and giving you all the ancient numerology so you can work out all of your life, and it's also a healing modality. We do ancient activations, which actually opens up the portal system in the body to bring through multidimensionality, and it also connects you to your higher self. And a very, very fast way to evolve and connect. And it's taken a lot of the heaviness out of all the work that we would have done in the olden days. And we go through inadequacy. I teach you about elemental medicine, the planet medicine. We have medicine as well that I give you to sort of, the essence is not so much medicine. We say vibrational medicine, and they're to trigger the denied, repressed trauma, to get everything moving in the body. We talk about the imagination, the science behind this. I give you a load of esoteric information. Then what will happen, depending on the group and how much they need to heal, we'll do module 2 within 3 to 6 months after that. And then we start to go into the deep sort of soul body. We go more into the unconscious or the subconscious, where everything's hidden. And we start to work with a lot of these control programmings that I've mentioned. And I've only mentioned 2 today, but there's about 6 or 7 that we remove on alignment modality 2. And then 3 is we're going into the pineal, and then we're going into more of the advanced vibrational medicine. And then we start to talk to spirit directly. And I'm also going to be hopefully bringing through an out of a body experience for everyone. So we're just still creating that at the moment. But module 3 is really takes on a very deep esoteric connection. And there's a few other techniques that we use, and we work a lot with the pineal gland and hypothalamus in module 3. There's a few other bits and pieces. And of course, then you have the opportunity to become a practitioner. Now, the alignment modality is patented now, and it's insured in over 45 countries. So you get cheaper insurance through it. You'll become a teacher of it. So it's all above board. It's got its credibility. And I've got books that are coming out as well. As like I said, the first one, Alignment, will be coming out this year. So with my literary agent at the moment. And that supports. Now, all of this work that I've been giving you has come directly from spirit, and of course my own work I've worked with since I was 5, 6, as I can remember. So it's an accumulation of a lot of like I said, frequency. Now the book and the workshop alone is very, very transforming, and it will really start to get things moving. So if you want something different, you want something cutting edge, dynamic, and that gets right into the core very quickly, then this is the type of work for you. All right, thank you very much. I'm going to start sharing now. I think I need to get going. There we are. There we go. Okay, well, I think Stephen is going to cut us off now. So I'm going to thank you all. Please come on my, like I said, check out my website. If you want to get in contact, just give me an email, and then we can go from there. All right. And of course, under courses has all the video links as well, and explains all the alignment modality. Thanks very much, guys.